Hello and welcome back to part 3 of my Dragon Ball Z role-playing game revised rules tutorial. Picking back up where we left off, I was about right here. I went over deadly effects on energy manipulations. Delayed explosion. This is kind of like if you want to do something like Piccolo's Hell Zone grenade attack, when he shot a bunch of energy attacks that missed or intentionally missed Android 17, and then he waited a while and then made them all blow up at once. This is pretty much what that is. Delayed explosion. The target number is +3 per combat round delayed. So for each combat round you delay it, it's going to be +3 to the target number that you have to roll with the 3d6s when you attack. You may apply more than one energy manipulation to any energy attack. Moving on. Knockback. Okay. Knockback in this game is pretty much calculated by first you divide the damage dealt by the power level multiplier of the attacker's power level, and then multiply the result by 0.03, which is 3%. So pretty much for every 3% of base damage before the multiplier, in other words, that, and you round up, for every whole number that is the amount of knockback spaces that you get knocked back. Knockback damage is if you get knocked into a section of terrain. So if you get knocked into one of these mountains or something, pretty much for every 3 movement that you got knocked back. So like, let's say you got knocked back 20, or let's say 21 spaces, and you hit this rock face for, let's say, let's say your back was already up against this rock face and you got knocked back for 21. So that would be 7 for every 3, 6 for 21. So it'd be 7 extra D6s worth of damage that cannot be resisted from the knockback. Determining knockback prone. When taking damage that is equal to 10% of your max health, roll a 1d6. On a result of 5 or 6, you remain standing. Anything less than that, you get knocked over. So that's how you get knocked prone in the game. 10%, for those of you who don't know how to figure that out, you just multiply the damage that was taken by time, or you have to figure out what 10% of your hit points is. So you would get his 990. Take out your trusty calculator. 990 times 0.10. And it's 99. So if he takes 99 damage, has a chance of getting knocked prone. So he would have to roll that 1d6, and that on a result of 5 or 6, he's fine. Anything lower than that, he gets knocked over. Moving on. Flying. As I covered, I believe in the first video, flying is done by the different tiers. These guys are in tier 1 right now. There's 3 tiers to flight. There's tier 1, then it goes 2, and then 3 is like up here, way up here. Pretty much for every tier going up vertically is 3 move. So tier 1 is 3 move, tier 2 is 6, tier 3 is 9. So if you want to shoot up straight to tier 3, you have to move 9 vertically before moving horizontally. Now, here's the mechanic on how sensing power levels works. Pretty much the way it works is if you want to suppress your power level, It's a free action. You can do it anytime. You roll a D100, so the percentile dice, or you roll the percentile dice, the D00. So you just roll this one, and then you add your mental and your mind stat and multiply the percentage result. This is pretty much figuring out the percentage that you are suppressing. So you would roll this, and I got a 40, and I would add that to my mental and my mind, which is 14. So it would be 54% of my energy that I am suppressing. So let's say I'm already currently at 330 because I powered up once this round, or a round before that. So I'm at 330, and I want to suppress some of that. So I would roll that 54%, and then I'll get that 330 and multiply it by 0.54. And that's the amount. So 178, you would round it up, so it still stays 178. So 330 minus 178. Oops. That 178, that's the amount that I'm subtracting from the energy that I have currently. That's the amount that I'm suppressing. So I suppressed that amount. That's the amount that is not suppressed. So 152 of my energy is not suppressed. My opponent has a chance of reading that. Now, that's pretty much how that works. It says results in the amount of energy that is suppressed. The lower the percentage of the max power level that is suppressed, the harder it is to sense them. Sensing an opponent is a free action. So this is the amount of energy that I have that is not suppressed right now, 152. However, my max power level is 660. So you have to do a little bit of math here in figuring out 152. So I would get 660. You have to kind of guesstimate times, let's say 30%. So 198, it's below that. So 660 times 0.28 maybe. Okay, it's even below that. 660 times 26. Okay, so it's around 27% of my energy that's being exposed. So what would happen is the opponent who's trying to sense me would roll the D20 and consult the sensing difficulty table. So 30% or lower of my energy is exposed right now to the opponent. So in order for him to sense me, he would have to roll 15 or higher in order to sense me. If 0% of my energy was exposed right now, he would have to roll 20 to sense me. So that's that's pretty much how sensing works. It's a little bit of math. It's kind of confusing, but just kind of go through what I just said slowly, and you'll probably be able to figure it out. It's pretty straightforward. First, you're rolling. The way it works, pretty much, just to go over it again, you roll your percentage, and then you add your mind and your mental skill. So in his case, be 14 added to that, whatever you roll. And that's the amount of percent that he is suppressing. So that's the amount you would subtract from the amount of energy that he has on him currently. Then once you subtract that amount, that basically tells you how much of his energy is exposed. You have to figure out where that energy lies as far as his max power level. You have to see what that exposed energy is, like what percentage that is of his max power level. Once you figure that out, you already pretty much know what the opponent has to roll in order to sense him. And that's pretty much it, really. Moving on. Oh, also, if the enemy is wearing a scouter, he senses whatever exposed energy is, or whatever energy is exposed automatically. So he would sense that 150 something energy automatically if he was wearing a scouter. Doesn't have to roll for it. Next is max energy attack. I kind of went over this already. It's the same thing as max physical attack. Maximum damage for energy attack that the player fire at once is determined by power plus combat, then round down to the nearest 10 for every 10 points equals 1d100. It's the same thing for physical attacks. For every 10 points is 1d20. That's pretty much that. Self-destruct rules. Yes, you can self-destruct in this game. If you want to pull a Majin Vegeta, pretty much all you got to do is just power up to full and successfully grab your opponent, and then you blow up. That's pretty much it. Once you successfully grab your opponent, you can blow up, and the damage dealt, it cannot be evaded, cannot be resisted, and the damage is equal to your full power level. And that's pretty much it. When you die, you die. And it's up to the GM to determine if whether what's King Yema's judgment on you, if whether you go to HFIL, Home for Eternal Losers or something like that. Or Infinite Losers, I believe. Or if whether or not you get to go on Snake Way and have a chance to train with King Kai. Super Saiyan rules. Yes, you can turn Super Saiyan. Minimum power level that you need for Super Saiyan 1 is 5 million. And you also need a little bit of pure-heartedness as well. This is the increase in your power level and in your skills. You'll multiply all of it by 1.5. That's pretty much it. This is just the table for showing you all the different Super Saiyan forms that are out there right now. That 20 million for Super Saiyan 2, 100 million for Super Saiyan 3, 500 million for Super Saiyan Blue or Super Saiyan God, 2 billion actually for Super Saiyan Rose, and 10 billion for Super Saiyan 4. To achieve Super Saiyan 1, it must be done under a point of severe stress, and the player must have at least a little bit of pure-heartedness and a power level minimum of 5 million. The player must roll a 1 on a d6. If failed, they can try again in another battle later on. That's pretty much it. Once you succeed in turning Super Saiyan the first time, you can turn Super Saiyan anytime at will after that. Super Saiyan rules continued. If the player takes damage up to half their health, they revert back to normal. They may revert back to normal voluntarily. Energy attacks do twice the D100's worth of damage. If the energy attack is a signature move, it does triple the D100. So that's the main thing to remember, instead of double. Physical attacks normally do 3d20 damage while transformed, and if the attack is a signature move, it does 6d20 extra damage as well as the initial 3d20. Apply damage multipliers accordingly to the transformed state's power level. Hit points remain the same while transformed, so your hit points do not change. That's a pretty important rule to remember there. And that's pretty much it as far as role-playing game rules. That's pretty much all you need to know. Another thing is how do you gain experience? This is something that I pretty much I pretty much left the rules the same as they were in the book. The way leveling up works in this game, if you train for 1 whole year by yourself with no masters or anything, you get only 10 XP. If you train under heavy gravity, such as like training under times 10 gravity, you would get the 10 experience points and multiply it by the amount of gravity that you trained under. So 10 times 10 be 100 experience points you would get for that, for training under that for a whole year. Also, you get experience points from battles, of course, from defeating enemies. You get the enemy's power level, you divide it by your power level, you round it up, and then you multiply it by 10, and that is the amount of experience points gained for that battle. Also, if you are training under King Kai in Otherworld, King Kai over there, you gain 30 XP per day. So that's actually a really huge boost. They did not include any rules for what it is to train under Kami or any of the other masters like Master Roshi or even the Grand Kai or any other masters out there. They haven't really given any rules on that. But I think that's something that can just be left up to the GM to figure out for themselves what would be a good amount of experience points to gain from training with the different types of masters. I'm thinking training with like Korin or Kami or Mr. Popo, that probably increases your speed, if anything, like your movement stat. That would be a good reward for training with them. These are just little examples just to think about. But pretty much that's just the way, gaining experience works in this game. It's just by 10 XP. 10 XP. For every 10 points of XP, you get to boost one of your stats. That's pretty much how it works. So that's pretty much it as far as Dragon Ball Z. These books are pretty handy as far as what they offer. I mean, they tell you a lot of stuff that most DBZ fans already know. Like I said, you really want their stats to work with. This one that I got in particular, somebody colored into it. It looks like a little kid colored into it. They actually give you a map of the world, which is pretty cool. Though I think the map of DBZ Budokai 3 actually updates this map. So I think this one's kind of outdated. They talk about Red Ribbon Army. They actually give you pretty cool maps on like the capsule building, other spaceships, Korin's. Excuse me. They even give you stats on the Dragon Shenron. I know there's a map somewhere in one of these books of the Kami's Lookout. I'm not sure where it is. This is actually Otherworld. They show you an entire map here, which is pretty cool. King Kai's planet. They got map stats on Bubbles and Gregory and King Yema and on these ogre guys. And yeah, that's these books are pretty handy. They come with some pretty handy, useful stuff as far as if you need extra information on stuff. Like they actually have a list of. I think it's the second one. It's either the second one or the third one that has a list of Dr. Brief's capsules, like how many capsules he has, and I think it's the second one that teaches you how to create your own spaceship, which is pretty cool. I think this one goes over creating your own different planets or something like that. They're pretty interesting books on their own. Definitely worth getting if you are going to play this game, but not necessary, not a necessity. And you could probably find them, all three of them, online. The online PDFs for free. So I don't think you don't really have to shell out all that money to get these. Other than that, I did include skirmish game rules for this game for players that are not really too much into the role-playing aspect, which I will probably go over in the next video. I'm already at 20 minutes right now. I'm pretty sure my phone's going to die on me. So I'll go over that in the next video, the skirmish game rules. This is basically, these are rules for if you want to just fight with miniatures and using the terrain and all this stuff, and just fighting like one big map or something without using any of these stats or without doing any math or anything. You're just rolling dice just to fight. So I have a whole rule set and based just solely on that. So stay tuned, and thank you guys for watching. Sorry about the abrupt endings to all my past couple of videos. They've just, my phone kind of stops it on me without me knowing. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys